professionalism that I respect.
Oh my gosh, Chris!
Stephanie, how good it is to see you. How are you? Happy Thursday.
You're still alive. You're still alive. I feel like we haven't done an episode in forever.
I mean, I think that, all of our millions of raving fans deserve to know, had some technical snafus, had some personal snafus, had some snafus just in general, I think would be the
The life of a founder.
We've missed a few episodes, but we were back and better than ever.
I've been traveling. You've been sick.
We were back in spry.
Yeah.
I've been traveling. Got a little bit of man cold going.
The man cold
is way worse than the normal cold.
The man cold is the worst, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the worst. We could all agree. It's
worse than anything else. Did you know that I'm Swiss?
World.
In the whole world.
I did not know you're a Swiss.
Yeah. And there's a documentary on, the stereotype with Swiss watches. There's a whole documentary on that on Netflix now. And I just kept avoiding it, even though I have my Swiss heritage. And it was all about, how watches and clocks are made in Switzerland and why they're different and blah, 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 blah. So I finally watched it and it was about time.
I should not find that as funny as I find that. Yeah, but that's pretty cool. Stephanie, how excited was the gardener about spring?
Tell me, Chris, how excited?
He was so excited, he wet his plants.
Oh my God. It's especially.
Oh my God. That's what you miss, folks.
That's what you miss. I'm sure everyone is glad that they've come back to watch this episode. All right. Listen, we have some things to talk about today. And we are going to dive into a topic that I think is actually, from a personal perspective, pretty important and has been really important in my own development as a founder. So, Chris, what of the most trusted advisors that you have are the biggest threat to your company? Chip Conley grew Joie de Vivre into a boutique hotel empire with advisors who knew nothing about hotels. Their ignorance was strategic. Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about building your own personal board of advisors and why the mentors who got you here might be the ones holding you back. I'm your host, Stephanie Hayes. With me today is my wonderful and ever so slightly still sick co-host, Chris. And we are going to dive in and talk about why most founders build advisory boards by collecting impressive people. So, Chris, what's the biggest misconception about what a personal board of advisors, I call it my personal board of directors, is actually supposed to do?
I think that most people think the moment that they start to do this work, we say to founders, you need to surround yourself with other founders. You need to surround yourself with smart people. And so the moment they start doing that, they look for the most impressive job title or the person that's got the most sort of gravitas in the room versus truly understanding what that job of that personal board of advisors is going to be. That's my thought. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've spent a lot of my life being kind of a lone wolf and never really, thought about the concept of a personal board of advisors. And once I finally realized that, this could be game changing for me, I really sought out to put one together. And so I think, the point of this episode is that does that board of directors change over time? And how do we know who we need at any given time in our development?
Yeah, it's a terrific question. I think that a good place to sort of start this conversation is the why part of the conversation. Why did you go out and build your own personal board of advisors? Why do I have a group of people, you all included, that I consider my board of advisors? What's the role in your life that these people play?
Yeah, and also I think that there's a question like how do we engage with them, and um what kind of power or influence do we give them in all of the decisions that we make? Do you have a personal board of directors, personal board of advisors?
It's informal, but absolutely. I've got a
Yeah.
group of people that I call, and I've got a group of people that I call for different reasons. And I think that the piece that I've learned down through the years is that there are people that you need to call when you've had a really terrible day, and that are going to listen to you and say, wow, that's terrible. And that's bad. And I'm very sorry that happened to you. And I bet you'll have a better day tomorrow. And I need that. I need somebody that's going to pick me up when I fall. And I think we all need that to some capacity. For some people, it's their family. For other people, it's just close friends, etc.
Yeah.
But a personal board of advisors is a little bit different. This is the group of people that are actually not going to do that. They're not going to be the ones who tell you like, oh, hey, you're so smart. Don't worry. This is classically the people that are going to challenge your thinking, that are going to ask you tough questions. They're going to make sure that what you believe to be true. And I think that it's revolves around a central point, Stephanie, which is we as founders, we fall into these cognitive biases, this sunk cost fallacy, these ideas that we start to get very, very focused on an outcome, and we miss the fact that this idea, this approach is not going to work. And we need people to point out the flaws in those concepts. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the people that we surround ourselves with are there to help us, see truth and help us see our own kind of gaps, and to also guide us, right? To also provide experiences that may, help us find new directions and find new opportunities and all of that. So I think it's like all of those things combined. But I think you do have to be careful who the experience that I've seen happen and that I've had on my own is that when you have surrounded yourselves with people that got you through your last phase or got you to the place that you are right now, sometimes that's not what's going to get you to your next place. And I know that I've sort of done a refresh on that personal board of advisors. But what's the makeup of that group for you? Like, do you look for personal and a combination of personal and a combination of, personal and experienced and blah, blah, blah? Or, what's that balance that you look for? What do you need in your advisors?
I'm going to answer your question, not that this is abnormal, with a little bit of research. So Paula Caprani, my favorite author around management in general, wrote a book called The Practical Coach. Practical Coach is still one of the greatest business books ever written. It's more of a textbook, but it's so incredibly important. She calls this concept the loving critic. And so what we say is, and this is more managerial stuff than founder stuff, but the same idea holds true, is that there's an idea called managerial derailment. 50% of people never get to where they want in their career. And they don't get to where they want in their career, not because they're not talented or smart, whatever. It's because they've developed bad habits. They say flaws are blind spots, a strength becomes a weakness, etc. And so who in your life can you surround yourself with that says, Stephanie, you're being an idiot. I love you, but you're being an idiot right now. Like, this is not the pathway forward for you. And that statement that's a really difficult statement, A, for somebody to say, and B, for somebody to hear. And so that person has to be a special person in your life. It has to be somebody that you genuinely trust and love, but was also not too afraid to hurt your feelings. That's a tough place to start, isn't it?
But there's a third element to that too. But for me, it's very much about it being somebody who has had the experience to be able to tell me and advise me in a way that um, I feel like is aligned with them understanding who I am and what path I'm on, but also who has, the experience and the perspective to be able to make those calls. So that's the real tricky thing, right? Is that trust and that, like, I don't mind getting hard conversations from people that I believe are in a position to have those with me and that whose experience that I can, trust. But just anybody out there kind of weighing in on something that I don't feel like they have the experience to weigh in on, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But I think like um sort of what comes up for me with all of this is so many of our episodes, so many times when we talk about some of the challenges that founders face, we keep coming back to this idea of self-awareness and founders needing to understand themselves and have that kind of support from the beginning. And I think that a lot of them don't, right? So when is the right time to make sure that you've got this sort of personal board of directors around you so that they can support you in your journey through?
Well, this is one of those things of I did not do this, but wish I had. So I think that there are a group of people, and I think you need to do it before you start your company. So I think that the first time when you have your very first idea and you're working on this thing and you're all in, I stupidly went in, quit my job, went all in on the company, told everybody I knew that I was going to go be a founder and entrepreneur. And when it started to fail, I couldn't even accept that as a possible failure. I needed to be a success for my own ego. The first group of people around you need to be able to say, you need to quit. Or celebrate when you actually don't need to quit. And so
yeah,
I didn't have people around me to say, Chris, you're good, man. You can go start another company, or you can go get a job. You can do this other stuff. This thing is not your identity. And so because every problem I'd solved in my life was just about going and working harder and being tougher and enduring more, that reflected it. And I was working incredibly hard on a company that was never going to work. And so I think that first stage of people, I call it a personal risk plan, is you need to be able to publicize to very few, very trusted people that said, this is my plan. And if I don't get to this place in 3 months, I'm going to have a little bit of a question. If I don't get this place in 6 months, I'm going to have a couple of question marks. And in a year, here's where I expect to be. And if I'm not there, you should ask me hard questions. And I know it's a very strange place to be in an early stage company, but Stephanie, that would have saved me massive amounts of pain in my life.
Oh, 100%. And like almost giving them those instructions is kind of what you need to do, especially in the early stages of being a founder. Like I actually think that's the most important time to have because you could go down a rabbit hole. We've talked about this on various episodes about how you can get so pot committed to your idea and what you've invested in and the ego around it. Imagine, like, this is where a lot of founders get in a lot of trouble, is that they isolate themselves and that they, like, let's be honest, a lot of startups fail. And if you didn't have those people surrounding you when that happens, or when you have to make the call, that can be a huge impact on your mental health, on, whether you go and do it again. So I think that just the normalization, like having that personal board of directors who have had the experiences to sort of normalize what you're going through, right?
And I would say in this case, Stephanie, it's just finding people like you and me. It's finding, and we're not hard to find. There are founders in your community. The only question is, hey, have you done this a few times and have you failed? And I would love to have a cup of coffee with you once a month, once every quarter or whatever, and just tell you what I'm going through. Because I don't know about you, but I will, if you can endure trying to actually get on my calendar, when you get on my calendar, I want to meet with new founders. It's one of the things I think is most important that we do as, going to say veteran. I'm not going to say old, Stephanie, because you're 26, but the more veteran founders that we are, that's the most important role. And so finding a few of those people that you can go have coffee with, I think that's probably easier than this next phase that I think we're going to get into.
So is it better to surround yourself with people who are going to challenge your assumptions or people who are going to accelerate your growth path?
Wow, what a bold question. I think early on, I think it's about challenging the assumptions of the business. And so we've talked about this, but I believe that every single company in the early stages is a series of, it's like 4 or 5 different hypotheses that you put together. And each of them have to be true for your business to work. And for somebody to be able to be like, okay, that one doesn't make sense. Like what, just tell me more about this one. Why? And I'll give you an example. I have a student who has built a pretty good little company early, but a good little company selling some merchandise on Amazon, and was trying to get off of Amazon for obvious reasons and wanted to go start a company that's doing monthly subscription boxes. And he's like, product? I was like, yeah, product is great. Plan's great, et cetera. And he's like, yeah, I want to do Shopify. People put in their credit card and people pay month over month to get these boxes. And it's like, time out. That's a really hard business model right now. Getting people to put a credit card in a brand new Shopify site where they're going to pay you every single month recurring, it's not you can't. That's really hard. You have to start to establish a ton of trust and credibility. I just challenged that one single assumption. That one single assumption I think, was the core piece. Again, that just comes from years of experience doing this stuff. So I do think it's about that. But also, I mean, it's a hard question because your growth as a founder is going to be the thing that's going to help you be aware of that the next time. So I don't know that they're all that different.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a static thing, right? And I don't think it's something where like I have to declare that who my board of directors is and then that stays the same forever and I can't change it, right? I think you have to constantly be on the lookout for people who are going to be, great partners for you in an advisory capacity in the path you're going to, right? So it's on you to make sure that you're surrounding yourselves and also to be assessing whether, you've outgrown one of those folks that's, close to you. But I guess there's sort of a sense of loyalty as well. Like I remember looking around myself at one point in time and going, I'm surrounded with people who have a certain perspective on money, for example. And that's really influencing me because these are people I consider very close to me and that, were part of my personal board of directors. And I had to make a really intentional change there because it was actually holding me back. And they had gotten to a certain point in their business growth and that's where they were comfortable. And that's kind of where they stayed, but I wanted to go past that. So what do we, like, how are we constantly searching for and identifying who's in our, future path? And how do you, I think this is the bigger question is how do you form those relationships? Because I think that there's a lot of, I want to be connected with this person who's going to really help me grow, but they seem sort of out of reach for me.
It is funny because as you're saying that, I think there is this 2 phases of this concept. So the first phase is as you're just getting started, surrounding yourself with people that will tell you your baby's ugly, classically, will tell you that one of your theories about the business might be flawed, et cetera. And I think this is also kind of one of the core components, even though that it's something that you and I don't even think about. This is not a paid position. This is just somebody you go have coffee with. And when some people think about boards, they're like, well, do I give people equity? Do I start to how do I figure out, ways to compensate them? Every founder, and particularly for seasoned founders out there, it is your fucking job to go have coffee with early stage founders, right? It is your job. Go do that. I don't care. Virtual meetings, whatever. Take the meetings. We all need to help each other in this journey. And so I know you're busy. We're all busy. However, go take those meetings. Go, please, for the love of God, and search them out. And so that's what I mean. It's like, Stephanie, I think that early stage, how do you find the people? You show up at meetups, you find them on LinkedIn, et cetera. You reach out, you have a cup of coffee with them. But also, later stage founders like us, we need to continue to make ourselves available for people that want to have coffee, meet with us, do a Zoom meeting, whatever, because it's so important. It's so important that we continue that cycle of not screwing up the same stuff that we screwed up early stage, and that we can help people be more successful than we were. I think that there's this moment of transition, though, which is you have a company. It is working. It is growing. I'm not talking about board of directors. That's a corporate governance component, right? And so this is even pre-board of directors level stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You're not looking at corporate governance stuff. This is just about the people that you call when you have questions or you don't know what to do, et cetera. And I think that there is a special group of people that are experts in stuff. And I don't want to necessarily say your industry, but are experts that you want to have kind of developed a network of. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, and this is very personal, right? This is a group that stays with you no matter where you go, what you do, etc. Or, they don't. But it's the understanding that it's for you as opposed to for the business is incredibly important, and it's something that you should be constantly curating, right? And one of the best ways to achieve a strategy is to have the power of someone who's done it behind you, right? Not that, like, that can be limiting too. There's a risk there that just because someone did it one way doesn't mean that's how you need to do it. But at least if there's an advisor who can normalize and reflect on the things, like, I see all of these people starting up businesses and they feel very isolated because they're not surrounded by people who, especially, I do a lot of work in the sort of transactional wellness industry. And a lot of those I would say almost like 100% of those businesses are built by someone who was a nurse practitioner or who was a, massage therapist, or who was a practitioner of some sort and decided to start a business, but they're not surrounded by, in fact, they're usually surrounded by a very different group of people who come from, big public healthcare, or who come from the very judgmental wellness industry. And so they are not surrounded by entrepreneurs and people who are business owners. So I think even more so for those kinds of folks, they get to a point where they need to grow and they don't know what to do, right? They don't know how to navigate all of this because they're just not immersed in that environment. So as a founder, as somebody who's starting up, seeking out the people who have done or understand where you want to go is just incredibly important. And I don't think you have to feel like there's some type of loyalty to stick with those folks. They should be constantly evolving kind of as you go, right?
I think I probably have 2 to 3 people that I want to talk to about strategy. And I want those people to be not in the business I'm working on. And I want people that can look at this from a very mechanical, market-driven perspective, that don't have any of my sunk costs or those beliefs, those industry beliefs like we're talking about, that just tend to start to be repeated, almost like they're cliches that may or may not be true. Like, great businesses are oftentimes formed when you're breaking something that's conventional wisdom. And so I like to have 2 or 3 people that are kind of counter, they think from first principles. And so Anthony classically has been that person in my life for years and years and years, which is, I'll come in and be like, hey, I think this is going to work. And it'll be like, okay, let's start from the very beginning. Who's going to be your customer? How are they going to do that? That's a really important person from the strategy side to have. And that strategy, I think, can evolve as the company gets bigger. There's people that I know that are really good early stage. And then I know there's people that are way better. Like, you've got to start up and you're kind of trying to direct it and try to figure out what that path forward is. And they're really good at that stage. And then I know people that are really good at helping at larger company stages. And so having those people to call is important. But then tactically, Stephanie, finance, accounting, legal, how do you get those people that are not the strategists, which is strategy, talking strategy is fun, right? It's easy. But when you go and you have a specific problem you need to solve, I'm not talking about the lawyer that you pay or the accountant you pay. These are the things that you need to think through. Where do you find those people?
I go to the evidence, right? So where have I seen evidence that someone has been able to sort that out, right? To have the same experience and to understand. And I would seek them out based on my understanding of their experience. And maybe there's someone who can introduce me to them. But I think it's important to put together that mix of people who are going to challenge you and also who are going to be sort of emotional support animals, and make sure that you've got, like, this is so important. Make sure that you've got that mix. When, like, the flip side of that is, what do you do when you notice that actually one of these people might, like, I remember having this big revelation. There was this person in my life who I've known for 30 years and been in business together with, and like, I'll always just sort of put him on a pedestal as the be all end all of, like, his word is always right. And what I started to realize is that might not be true for me anymore, right? Like, that might be, and I might be making my decisions and my own, strategic choices based on what I anticipated he would say or what he has said to me. And I started to realize, like, we're on different paths and we are different people. And I think that's a real trap, is when you kind of grow up with somebody and you sort of have this perspective on them that they're always going to be right, and then you start to realize that you're actually being held back by that.
It's a very difficult question. For lack of a better word, it's because you love these people. It's like they're amazing and they've supported you and they've helped you through all these very difficult times. But in those difficult times, you start to realize, like, maybe this person's not the right person to give me advice anymore on this in particular issues. And so it's a really tough thing. I think the piece of the equation, and this is just a universal truism for me, but I want to get your thoughts on it, which is, I think we're always should be seeking out that next layer of advisors. And I'll give you a perfect example. So, I sold my company, I don't know, it's been 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. Spent a year kind of bumming around, and then came into this brand new industry and this brand new company. And I am really good at early stage companies. I think at least I'm good at early stage companies, figuring out, making order out of chaos, but I don't know anything about the industry. And so I've made it my job over this past year now to talk to anybody that knows about this industry and learn the verbiage, learn the terminology, et cetera. And as I'm doing this, I'm moving up the food chain to the point where now I'm starting to talk to CEOs of middle-sized to larger-sized companies that can not only serve as advisors to me personally, but can open doors for my company in the future because they like what I'm doing. And I'm humble enough to call and ask for advice and really genuinely want to learn. And so I think it's an ongoing process to the point where you, with the knowledge that for the vast majority of these people, they're not paid people. They're just people that you want to go have coffee with, that are friends, that want to support you along the way. And you need to continue to meet new people, because I think that those new people will continue to bring different things to your life. I think I think it's challenging in that. I think the other piece, and this is what I wanted to ask you about, is I've had situations where I was working or had friends that were maybe a stage or two above me in a company. And as my company started to close and maybe even pass, there was resentment on their side. And it wasn't about them being excited about me and my company, even though they said that. Oh, congratulations. Yeah. It didn't feel that way. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, it's a really good, like, you bring up a really good point, and it was sort of dovetailing into, the next thing I was going to sort of surface was that this also becomes challenging when there's ego at play, right? And and there's, like, all sorts of angles on this. I'm not going to reach out to somebody because I'm afraid that they're going to think less of me, or I'm not going to be truthful with these people because they're going to judge me, or I feel shame about what's happened, or I'm worried that they're going to start to resent me because I'm being successful. Like all of this stuff, right? This is a lot more nuanced and complicated than you might think. And I think the point that you were kind of making before is that vulnerability and curiosity are the two things that are going to get you through this founder journey, right? And if you can't develop those muscles, and if you cannot, like, if you do have someone in your personal board of directors uh, that is where it's problematic when you're being successful, that's good information for you, right? And that might be the time where that becomes a person who is less influential in your direction than others, right? So it's just like constant, we're all humans, right? We're all human beings and we're all flawed and we're all fucking emotional and, everything. So you have to be conscious of the role that and the journey that this person has in your life. And there's a time where that might come to an end.
It's so funny because I feel like half of our episodes turn into psychology, like therapy sessions. But at the end of the day, it's like it's true though, right? Is that you're going to be surrounded by people. Some of them are good people, some of them are bad. The problem is when you're an early stage founder, first time founder, you start to fail in ways that are profound and make you feel terrible and make you feel like an idiot and like you don't know what you're doing. And lovingly, half the time you don't. And so you're looking for anybody that can make you feel better. They're looking for anybody that can give you some grain of truth in this world, in this ocean of not knowing a damn thing, right? And so you end up clinging to people that are very definitive, that are like, here is the answer. And you're like, oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me an answer, even if it's not the right answer. And so you end up giving your time and energy and investing in people that are actually not genuinely helping you. They're just giving you a sense that you are okay.
Yeah.
And I would argue that that's the wrong approach. The wrong approach, even though it feels better to have those people, the people that say, I'm not so sure about that, it's going to make you feel worse, but that's where you're going to learn the most. And back to this original point, you need to have people in your life you can call and be like, hey, I've had a really terrible day. And they go, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then you have people in your life that says, I don't know what to do here in your business. And they'll be like, you should kill the business. Right?
Yeah. And to be conscious of the bias, right? Because we do put people on pedestals and we do, think if they've already achieved something. But like the truth is I've worked with some founders who had one success and then kept building new businesses after that and were never successful, right? But everybody kept putting them on these pedestals for years, saying, oh, inviting them to speak at different times because they had this one, exit or whatever. But everything they've done since then has been an absolute disaster, right? So being careful not to put people on pedestals makes sure that you can be honest and you can be transparent and you can come to them with both the good things and the bad things, but also that you're not just taking everything that they say as gospel, because I will say that your experience is going to be different than anyone else's. And so you need to go into this with the perspective and the understanding that there are all these people in your lives and they play certain roles, and you will uncover who can hold you in both celebration and in sort of your challenges as well.
I want to, there's so many points here. It's like, what do we have to talk about advisory boards? Turns out we have a lot. There's Techstars, famously founded right up the road. I'm pointed to Boulder right now. Techstars, early in the days of Techstars, they had a thing called Mentor Whiplash, which is they would do a speed dating event where all the founders would get together in the room and they would go to and meet all these mentors, potential mentors for their business. Each of them would have 10 or 15 minutes to talk about their business and get a little bit of advice. And he would sit down with one person who had sold their company for a bunch of money and super smart, perfect person. And you say, hey, what do you think I should do here? And they would give you, I said, you have to go path A. And then the very next moment, you go sit down with the next person, smart, sold their company for a bunch of money, very, very confident in their path. And they go, oh, it is super clear. You have to go down path B. And then you go to the next one, and they go, oh, you have to go down path C. And it's called whiplash because you're sitting across the table from people that you're desperately trying to get answers to questions to, and they're all giving you opposing advice. And I think it's such a valuable lesson for a founder to go through because very, very smart people can have very different views on your business. And at the end of the day, you're the founder. You're the one who has to make that decision. And you don't need to apologize to anybody for saying like, oh, I really appreciate your advice. I chose to go this other way. Here's the reason why, but I really genuinely appreciate your advice. And as a founder who's given a lot of mentorship, I would never hold that. I'd be like, oh, awesome. That's great. Go learn that. And if you are a person that would get your feelings hurt on that, don't fucking mentor people. Like,
Yeah.
you
also,
shouldn't do that job.
It's one of the muscles that you have to develop as a founder is this triangulation, right? Whether it's in getting advice, whether it's in looking at your market, whether it's in your product design, like you need to be able to take in all sorts of different perspectives and that's a gift because you then get like every one of those mentors is going to have a different experience and a different background and a different personality and different risk tolerance, like all of that. So you have to understand their perspectives and their experience and all of that. You have to understand where they're coming from. And sometimes you know what you need. Like right now, we're starting up a private equity firm. I need the guidance of a mentor who has done this. And I will take that from one person right now because it could get far too confusing otherwise, because right now is not the time for me to be trying 8 different things. It's the time for me to just get on a path and get started. And then I can start to, triangulate and meander and understand and learn and grow and all of that sort of thing. So understanding what you need at any given time is incredibly important. And developing the triangulation muscle, I think, is also incredibly important because then you understand the feedback that you're getting, but you also understand what you need, right? And what you need right now. And you as a founder, like, are going to be doing this all the time, whether it's in the context of mentorship, whether it's context of your strategy, the decisions you're making, you're going to be navigating and when you put someone on a pedestal and say they have all the answers, you get yourself in a really, really tight position, right? So I think the conclusion, and I think the conclusions that come to us.
I want to add 2 points, which is the first thing, as a early stage founder, I sat across the table from an accountant who I knew, and I was looking for advice on my accounting, like should I be cash or should I be accrual accounting, things like that. Didn't know anything about it. And that accountant gave me a lot of business advice unsolicited. As an early stage founder, I took it. I was like, oh, it's an accountant. Clearly they know. Stephanie, if an accountant gave you strategic business advice, would you take it to this day?
No.
Probably not, right? Lovingly, accountants are not business strategists. They are backwards looking people. Everything they see.
They like to tell their they like to tell their clients they are, but
and there's only one other piece here. It's a slight call to action. It's something where I'm talking to myself as well. I'm talking to Anthony as we've got to reboot Denver Founders. We got to do this. Is that all of our jobs, everybody that does this job, that's a founder, and it's a job. And to your point, Stephanie, some of us get lucky and make a whole bunch of money. Most of us don't. Most of us just do this job because we love the job. It is all of our job is to seek out other founders, particularly ones that are just starting, and help them along the path. And just ask, how can I help? Don't go in with your own agenda. Don't go in with your plans. That is something that's so critically important because it is such a weird job. There is no other place. We have to help each other. There's no university. I mean, I teach at a business school, and I still don't think you can teach being a founder. We've done 192 episodes now, and I don't think we've scratched the surface of what it means to be a founder. And so we have to help each other. So even if you're an early stage founder, find people that you can go talk to and that you can give advice to people that are just in their thinking stage. And then everywhere along the way, it's up to you as a founder to plug back in. That's my yelling at founders today. Go.
Yeah, honestly, we're a weird bunch and we have special needs and we need to be in community with each other. And I think when we've been doing it for a really long time, like you and I have, we forget how terrifying it can be for someone who is the nurse practitioner just starting their own clinic, right? Like, or the artist who has a great idea and has never run a business before, right? 100%. So these are our kind of moral and ethical obligation to help each other is incredibly important. And also as founders ourselves, going and asking for help or being humble and surrounding yourself and like watching, just taking it all in and understanding that you're being surrounded by a whole bunch of different perspectives. Also, I think
giving advice is the greatest learning experience as well.
Yes.
Like if I get to sit across from somebody who's asking me questions, I need to recall those lessons that I can almost always immediately apply to a number of situations that I'm trying to solve today. It is a wonderful opportunity for you to
learn. 100%. Okay. You ready for the speed round?
All right, let's do it. I mean, up is down, left is right. Anthony's changing graphics on us, or is this AI changing graphics? I don't even know.
I don't know. It still feels like a game show to me. Are you ready for your max? Whatever. I don't have it. All right, Anthony. Yeah. Or no, you're Anthony. You're Chris. Are you ready? Are you emotionally prepared?
Yep, I hold on. Now I'm ready.
Okay, breath work. Would you fire an advisor who was right about everything?
100% yes.
Okay. Tell me why.
If when you say you're right about everything, they're not right about. Nobody's right about everything. I'm taking this as they think they're right about everything. And so if they think they're right about everything,
yeah. Either way, if they think they're right about everything or you think they're right about everything, they're the wrong advisor.
In both cases, it's dangerous, right?
Okay. We're not doing very well at speed round, are we? Should your best advisor know your industry cold or not at all?
Does not matter. I mean, I think honestly, not being part of the industry is probably better.
Okay. 3 months of bad advice or no advice at all?
No advice at all. I mean, bad advice will kill you.
Would you rather
your follow will kill you? There you go.
Would you rather your board of personal advisors disagree on everything or agree on everything?
I would rather they disagree.
Yeah.
Because conflict becomes better decisions. Yeah.
Here's a good one. Does a family member belong on your advisory board?
Almost never. Almost never. Like I can't imagine unless you just have a very, very weird relationship with a cousin. You can do that, right? Okay, maybe, but family dynamics are very complicated. And even though that we like to do therapy sessions, I don't know that this show is quite right for, me having to do family therapy.
A whole other topic.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay, deep dive resources. The Alliance, Managing Talent in the Networked Age by Reid Hoffman, Ben Kasnoka, and Chris Ye. The Advice Trap, Be Humble, Stay Curious, and Change the Way You Lead Forever by Michael Bungay-Stanier. All right, good conversation. Our guest didn't make it today, but we managed to pull it off. Thank you for your conversation. Thank you for your insight today, Chris. And I apologize that you had to do it while in the midst of a man cold, because I know how debilitating
it is. It is the worst thing on the planet. It's
the worst.
Terrible. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Do you want to close us
off? Thank you so much for joining us. We think you're amazing. We think you're the pioneers of economic prosperity. This is a perfect example we talked about today. We need you. This world needs you. Our society needs you. We all need each other. So keep fighting the good fight. If you like what we're doing, hey, maybe like or subscribe. Maybe do subscribe that thing on YouTube. maybe hit a like button. We'd appreciate it. We've grown a lot, and it's really fun to see because we do this because we love this and we love helping other founders. So it's incredible. Stephanie, thank you. It's incredible. We'll see you next time.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.